The DOS Nerd asks, here comes a question. Oh, well, I guess that was the question. What do you think of when you hear the word technology? I can tell you these days, I think differently than the way I thought when I was substantially younger, because back then, in the days of rotary dial, technology was just far and away this amazing, world-changing, life-changing thing that was so priced out of our range. Any technology that we got would have been just overwhelming, like terribly exciting. And so technology, to me as a kid, is different than technology is to me now. Now, tech is in everything. Everything. You can't go anywhere without some amount of technology touching it in one way, shape, or form. Whether we can see that technology or not, whether we're face to face with a digital display, or whether we're holding onto a product that has been managed by way of some kind of shipping system that is managed by technology. And I'm sure it was that way in the past, but not as prevalent, at least as far as accessing technology was concerned. And that is what makes me feel differently about technology today compared to the way I used to feel about technology, back then. I actually get worried sometimes when I hear the word technology today. Not because I don't think what it brings is awesome, but because I understand that sometimes what it brings is awesome and not necessarily in a good way. Like, certain things just don't need that much more tech to be better. Like, I don't need smart everything. I'm going to use my toaster without firmware, although I can't really say that because we don't have a toaster right now. But I don't want a toaster that is connected to anything. Me personally, it's just not my thing. It may be your thing, not my thing. I would rather know that what it is that I'm using, I'm using this electronic, right? This piece of technology, but not using it with a feature that, quite honestly, feels superfluous. And so a lot of technology today just seems to be iterative. I mean, you do definitely have like breakthrough products, certainly, but I cannot tell you like what it used to be like back then, and even in the early days of Locker Gnome, right, in the mid-90s. It was just so exciting to walk into a store that had a software aisle. Like, I used to love looking at the software, and even at the new PCs back then. Used to love it, because that was the only way to get to it, because the internet just wasn't what it was today, clearly. Now it's just everywhere. It's in your face. Like, cables and old devices just become clutter. Last year, I went through and basically purged 90% of the cables that I've been accruing over the years, because I was just like, I'm never going to use a mini USB device minus maybe needing one or two cables. And then even if I do need an extra cable, I'm sure I can find one and I'd pay the money versus paying to store cables. So technology, to me today, we're living in a world of, and I don't mean this in a bad way, actually a good way, overabundance, right? We have more technology than we know what to do with. And we're looking for ways to get technology into more places, as well we should. Like, let's say, for example, the 5G wave, so to speak, right? Connecting everything everywhere, or newer services to allow for phones to be connected to satellites remotely without any service around. I mean, that's life-changing. I mean, that's life-saving. And I think that's amazing. That's the type of technology that's exciting, but it's a different kind of exciting than the way technology used to be, because we just didn't have it. There was scarcity. We didn't have an overabundance. We didn't have the option and opportunity and accessibility to get something like a car phone back then. Of course, unless you were related to Daddy Warbucks, which I was not. So it was always one of those things that I lusted after as a kid, and even into adulthood, that came with me, that interest in what software and technology could do to transform lives. I've said it for a long time. Tech is a great enabler. And that's what really gets me excited about technology today. So when I see technology, I think differently. I think awesome. But the awesome power of technology, unrestrained, can be overwhelming. And without an understanding of something, that could be potentially devastating in one way or another. I'm interested in what AI is doing. Absolutely. Like the AI image generators, dude. Like there are very few newer technologies that come around that I feel are accessible to someone like me. And those AI image generators, specifically like the ones you can run on your desktop, either Windows PC or now there's a Mac version for, I think it's Stable Diffusion. There are a couple of clients out there that I'd be able to share with everybody if you were so inclined for me to talk about it, because I love it. But even then, AI, if left to its own devices, we don't know where that's going. We kind of know where it's going, but we really don't know where it's going. And that's an awesome power, and it's different. So I recognize as an adult with experience with technology, what can go wrong, what might go wrong. As a kid, can't afford it. And then when you could afford it, there was only so much that it could do. So when I think of technology today, I think it's awesome. Awesome. As a kid, it was just awesome. And I find myself vacillating between, I'm kind of like the frosted mini wheats, right? The frosted side of me is awesome. And the healthy side, who's, got to get his prostate checked every so often, says, watch out. Don't yet chat. That's the voice. And that's why I don't do much of this anymore, because the voice in my head is just probably need technology implanted in the brain. That's coming. Mark my words. Transhumanism is coming, and that we're not far off, if not already there. So I have different thoughts about technology, but most of them are rooted in believing that it can be there to help, while understanding the risks of just what it might hurt. And that could very well be me, right? Technology can be used and it can be abused. So when I think of the word technology, it's not always the gee whiz, or I'll say this, it's no longer the gee whiz. It's more like, and now what? How does this improve my life? What does this do for me? Does this make this better or worse? In many cases, when you go out to the world, the real world, beyond me brushing my microphone here, doing my best not to refocus the camera, because it's a fancy camera. If I hold my hand up close, it refocuses. So I can show off like the things that I'm 3D printing. I got into 3D printing because I could do things like this, make Darth Vader coasters and tiny little stormtroopers, in various filament colors. That's fun. That gets me excited. Not because of the 3D printer, but because of what I can make. The kid in me loves Star Wars figures, so that's why I'm still into it. It's something where, if you go out to the real world and, there's a new technology that's there to make your shopping experience better. How many times have you used new technology that just didn't work, or was unusable, or was just really bad? Like, it's just like, wow, this is new. This is worse than the way it used to be. It takes longer. It's a kludge. It wasn't designed very well, and I got to use this. I have no choice but to use this. I think not. That's usually because of usability problems. Software problems, not the hardware, the software problems, that's your experience. And don't tell me you've never run into a problem like that when you've gone out to the real world and used new technology that a store might be using, or like, you're checking into a place, or some technology that you are forced to use and you realize just how unusable it is. So new technology may not necessarily be the best choice. That's what I think about when I hear the word technology. I think about all the ramifications. I think about the implications. I think about the applications specifically to me. And I realize it's a lot of heavy thinking, but you asked the question and I'm more than happy to answer.